What we have currently in the Philippines, in Manila in particular, would be what we call edge locations. Essentially, these are the points of presences or POPs for content delivery networks. So whenever you download, let's say, a video, let's say from Netflix, which uses AWS, you're streaming it within the AWS edge locations here in Manila. So it's faster. No? But the compute part will still be in Singapore.
Welcome to this edition of Cut to the Core. I'm really excited about our topic today. We will learn more about digital innovations and the cloud computing landscape. Our guest today is the president and co-founder of Apper.ph, a multi-cloud digital innovations company and the premier cloud solutions provider in the Philippines. They provide services like cloud applications, SaaS development, cloud management, IT consulting, and custom software development. He was also the former lead product engineer of the online payment platform Paymaya. He initially started solo and slowly grew his team to build Paymaya from ground up. He's also a product of one of the finest high schools in the country, UP High School. Friends, let's welcome Diwa Del Mundo.
Right. Thank you, Jovel, for the warm intro. I come from a middle class. My parents are educators, and I practically grew up in the UP campus.
Okay,
And I feel like
okay.
that's kind of a good place to grow up, in the sense that you're surrounded by trees, by nature, and it's kind of isolated from the busyness and hustle and bustle of the city.
Are you a
So,
loyalist, Diwas,
yeah.
since kindergarten?
Oh, so I've been with UP since kinder.
Okay.
So
Congratulations.
so in fact, my dad was a professor in UP Manila. So
Okay.
that's one of the reasons why we stayed in UP for ever since I was young. No? But I think that's kind of pivotal in a way that I got exposed to technology. Because growing up, so I have this interest in mathematics. But during that time, so growing up in the 90s, the career path of someone who's interested in mathematics would be to go to the academe, or to be an educator. And I was really, I guess, really lucky in a way that I got introduced to a friend who introduced me to computers, to Linux, to programming when I was 10 years old. And I felt like that gave me a head start in my IT career. Because, because sometimes when you're growing up, meet certain people that kind of change the trajectory of your life. And I felt like that opportunity to meet someone who's really into technology was something pivotal for me, especially when you're coming, let's say you're a young kid in the 90s. You know how to play games, but during the time it's kind of different. The when you say you're into computers, you feel like you're doing something not serious compared to now. But it's more of luck that I met someone to introduce me to the right technologies. So it grew from there. So eventually took up computer science also in UP. And yeah, it started, my career practically started from there. Really um, saw the growth of technology and digital technologies in particular in the past 15 years. When I was younger, I was envisioning myself to be a mathematician.
Okay.
But I realized when I got into college, I realized I'm not good pala. So it's different than, let's say, you feel like you're good, but when you see like people around you are so much better in math, whereas okay, I think this is not the career path for me. The good thing, I got interested in computer programming, so I realized that I guess going to computer science and eventually IT is a good choice for me.
When you were young, Diwa, did you already have the hustle mentality?
Oh yeah, well, I guess that's kind of also connected to my I guess childhood, because as growing up in a middle class environment, you don't have that much, no? So it's I learned how to install Linux, do programming, using an old 486 machine. And during the time, some of my classmates already have the newest Pentiums back then
Yeah.
that I need to maximize my what we have. No? So it's like I don't need to complain because I didn't complain to my parents because they given me something, but I was able to maximize what I have. And utilizing open source technologies during that time has kind of helped me, I would say, a more resilient mindset. Because when you work with Linux and all of this open source stuff, it's okay. You get the core technology, but to make it work, it's really up to you. So you install it yourself, compile it yourself. That kind of help build my patience and also resiliency.
Okay, I'm curious about your story, Diwa. Take me back to how you got started with Apper.ph. Maybe walk us through as well with your experience as the product engineer of Paymaya. How did it
Oh yeah,
help
sure.
you like put up the company? What learnings did you get from being in the corporate world?
Okay, sure. So I guess to continue my story, my journey. So mid 2000s when I decided to put up a business. That was the time that I met you through the BNI. So I was doing some software development consulting business back then, and I uh, I eventually went to Singapore to study further, and also venture out in terms of my comfort zone. And I was fortunate to get accepted into this company called Viki.com. This is around, I think, late 2010, early 2011.
Okay.
And during that time, that's I would say that's a time that cloud computing is something that's still starting in
Really,
terms of the technology
yeah.
wave. So I was fortunate to get into that company because it kind of opened my mind in how to start scalable internet businesses. And during the time, we were using a platform service called Heroku. And the short story is we had we had a downtime, a really major downtime. Our team back then, so we realized, okay, our site is down. We can't do everything. We can't do anything because it's essentially a platform as a service. It means that everything is set up for you. And if everything is good, okay, you don't need to do anything. But if something is not working, you're practically helpless. So we decided to go deeper. And eventually, the decision was, okay, let's get out of Heroku and go direct to the cloud. So that's where the journey of cloud computing started for me, because of the realization that you need to have a good understanding of not only the platform but also the infrastructure services on the cloud. They're critical to make your platform and application highly available. So we've moved out the platform from Heroku and go direct to AWS. So that practically started my journey on the cloud. So I was able to use core services, the core services of AWS, EC2, S3. Since we were doing video streaming in Viki, I was able to use also the Elastic Transcoder. Essentially, it's a service that transforms the video into the formats that are playable in mobile phones and desktop computers and so on. So that kind of started the cloud journey for me. And after a couple of years working at the company, realized maybe it's time to go back to Manila and work on local startups, Philippine startups. So I went back to Manila, and so I've used AWS more as I joined startups. And 3 years after 3 years working with startups, well, I got married. So
Okay.
I realized that I need something more stable now.
Okay.
So they kind of changed my my priorities. So when you're single, it's okay to, to hustle out with startups, but sometimes things change. So the short story, I was able to get into Voyager Innovations, which is back then the parent company of Paymaya. And practically the first assignment that I had was to work on a payment platform. But the company, of course, creating a payment platform is not an easy endeavor. So it requires usually a number of software engineers, IT people, DevOps people, testers, product managers, and so on. But was able to see an opportunity to bridge the cloud computing with the payments world. So that's one of the key things that I did for the company. So it resulted to the development of the Paymaya Checkout, which is the payment gateway platform of Paymaya. So I architected and built it on top of AWS Cloud Services, and that really accelerated the growth of the business unit, the enterprise business unit of the company.
Diwa, you developed this from ground up, right?
Right, that's correct. That's correct. So it's almost impossible to develop it without cloud services. I mean, technically it would develop, but it's going to be more expensive, requires a lot of effort. But because of my experience working with cloud technologies and also having a startup mindset, so I guess I would describe Voyager / Paymaya as a corporate quasi startup. So there's an opportunity to be creative, to be an innovator during that time. So having a startup mindset, having a startup background allowed me to see the opportunity. So I really focused on that. But yeah, the cloud service really accelerated the development.
Can you share with us your learnings from your tenure in Paymaya, and did this actually help you in your next venture?
That's actually a very interesting question, because prior to joining Paymaya, coming from a startup world, right? So we feel like we can do anything, right? So if you're an entrepreneur or a startup founder, co-founder, or part of the startup team, we feel like you can always do everything, right? So getting into like a half corporate, half startup world, that was the main challenge for me, because all of a sudden I need to ask for permissions for certain things.
Okay.
So that's a major adjustment for me. So I didn't like it at first, to be honest. I feel like, things are kind of slow. So I need to be creative on to get the things that I need. But eventually I was able to adapt. And I feel like that's a skill that kind of helped me start Apper. Because I feel like if I started Apper without my experience in Voyager or Paymaya, I feel like it's dead by now. Um, it helped me think in a more structured manner. So because sometimes when we're in the startups, right, we want to do things fast. We want to do things quickly, And I think that's also a trap, because when you do when you do things like that, and sometimes you become reckless, right? It will bite you. It will bite you sometime in the future. So one of the things I learned in a more corporate world is to be more structured, to be more strategic in doing things, but at the same time find a balance on how you can execute things faster without compromising your ability to move forward in the future. So
Do you
that's
think, Diwa, I'm sorry. Do you think there's a long-term downside of moving too fast?
yeah, that's I guess I learned that from my various experiences working in Viki, starting my very first software business, working for various incubated startups. Moving too fast sometimes you tend to not see what's happening in reality, and sometimes you're a founder, you see this vision, diba? And you try to work on the steps towards that vision, and sometimes you get tunnel vision already. Okay, just move fast, just get into from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Then realize there are things that can easily cripple your I guess your velocity or your cadence towards a certain milestone. And I've seen it, especially if you work with industries such as finance, payments. It's kind of different because if you forget certain things, that might even kill your business.
Are you doing a lot of A/B testing then? And who was your number one competitor during that time?
Oh, okay. Well,
what was your stress level?
Oh, okay. Well, during my days in Paymaya, actually Paymaya was one of the, if not the first, digital wallet that launched in the Philippines. So quite proud with what we did.
Okay.
But that also came with a lot of, I guess, compromises, and also very painful nights of development to get it out of the door. I think the competition, if I remember correctly, so that's like 6 years ago. I can't even remember a hard competitor back then. So it was different. Like back in a year after, you have the competition. They started catching up, but practically we were competing against ourselves during that time.
Okay.
So one of the first digital mobile wallets that have launched with an app. Also on the business side, which is the payment acceptance side, because when you talk about payments, you talk about the wallet side of things. So enabling consumers to have a payment instrument, but you also need to take a look at the merchant side or the business side, enabling them to accept payments. So we're able to launch really good products, even with minimal investment from the company. But yeah, I mean, but in the digital world, competition can always catch up because of technologies such as cloud that will enable them to catch up with you.
Were you using a project management methodology during that time?
When we talk about methodology, usually we talk about agile methodologies, agile techniques such as Scrum. I can't remember what we were using exactly there. So I do know we're more of an agile organization.
But was it a formal methodology that you need to follow, or?
So it's not a formal, because sometimes it's good to, sometimes, okay, we have let's say you follow Scrum. Okay, you have a Scrum Master, you have this sprint planning, all of these things. Then okay, usually it starts off great.
Okay.
When the project starts, but as the deadline comes, everything seems to be I don't know. It doesn't feel like a Scrum anymore. It's more of a Scrum-like method. It becomes a Scrum-like. I guess it's. I feel like looking back, because there are too many factors to develop or to fully come up with a fully functioning digital product. There's so many things to consider, so many things to align, so many things to make sure that everything's moving towards the right direction. So it's good to have like a methodology. Definitely, that's something that is welcome. That's something that will help you. At the end of the day, you still need to adjust and find a way to fix things and achieve your goal.
I grew up with the Systems Development Life Cycle, so SDLC. Is it still being used right now?
Well, in a way, it's still being used because usually when the startup, let's say, get into a certain level, needs to be a corporate. It needs to have a structure. It needs to have a more corporate feel. I feel like that's the end game of startups. I feel like you can't be a startup forever. Sooner or later, when your business goes big, you need to have structures. So that's where
Yeah.
the corporate side of things comes in. So for some people, maybe they want to exit that by the time the business going to that level. Some people don't want to have a corporate or a more structured um, setup. I also think like that before when I was starting. I feel like I don't want this corporate setup, this formal structure. But my experience in Paymaya as a scaling business, as a scaling startup, sooner or later you still need to think about those. Because if you get into that stage, so say you're a startup or a startup business, then you go bigger, right? Your structure, your organization that brought you from point A to point B is not enough to bring you to point C anymore. So you need to have a structure. You need to have roles, responsibilities. That's the reality. So even in software development, sooner or later you go back to something like an SDLC to formalize things to make sure that you have. Otherwise, you won't be able to sleep.
Yeah. How big is your team, Diwa, that time? The development team.
So I'm handling multiple teams back then. Actually, I started alone. So when I
Oh,
entered the company, I was alone. Actually, worked alone for like 6 months. The architecting, the platform, uh, asking my boss, who's the CTO of Paymaya, Alfred Lowe, for resources to help me fast track the development. And eventually, it grew to a max of 20 people. So
I asked that question because I'd like to know your management style. How do you make sure that a goal is achieved that you are working with your team?
okay, yeah. So I would say that I'm more of definitely I'm not a micromanager. I delegate a lot because I always believe that when you hire a person, you are trusting that person that they can do the task that you're going to assign to them. So that's that's something that I guess that's something that kind of grew up on me. I feel like when you work with people, you need to have that trust, the level of trust. Because you can't expect, of course, you can't expect people to be perfect. No? But that's your job as a leader, as a manager, to make sure that you can foresee the, the challenges before even assigning a task or a responsibility to someone. You should have the foresight to create guardrails or to create strategies to mitigate a possible issue. But ultimately, you need to believe that your team can execute. I think that's a key for me. I rarely micromanage. In fact, I even got a comment that I was too lenient. uh, I actually do not care if okay, as long as you, let's say, if the agreement, let's say, if we have a weekly meeting at 9 o'clock every Monday, but after that, do whatever as long as you can meet the milestones. You can work wherever you want. That's fine with me.
Was there a major blooper that you made during your term? Like the you failed on something,
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of
and
failures, a lot
how
of
did you manage?
challenges. Okay, so I guess one of the things that came to my mind right now would be managing also different types of people, uh, especially team members who come from a different background.
Yeah.
It's, so as I mentioned, I come from a startup mindset, startup background. So sometimes you expect people to be creative in a way that if there's a problem, they'll find a way to solve the problem.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can't just spoon feed them.
Yeah.
So there were several times that I encountered challenges in those areas. Uh, also, of course, running a payment platform is a lot of challenges. If you look at it from an industry perspective, of course, aside from making things functional, making them work, scalable, highly available, there's also challenges in regulation. Something that uh, kind of threw me off guard initially. So regulations of the Banco Central,
Yeah.
Because you can't just do things, your way. As a technology leader or a developer, you really need to follow regulation. So a lot of I guess pains at the start, but sooner or later, once you get the hang of it, you you become better.
There are schools of thought that says that Moore's law is dead. What's your take on this?
Oh, okay. So the the compute power multiplying. So I would say that the current architectures, I think there's a physical limit. So sooner or later, we'll hit that limit, and that will force the CPU designers, companies like the Intel and AMDs to rethink uh, the core architecture of CPUs, because at the end of the day, the physics is the limitation. So you can't just grow the clock speed, to infinity. So I guess that's one of the reasons why things are you have cores, right? CPU cores. Because in a way you're trying to parallelize the computation. So, but I guess moving forward, there will be a hard limit of what the current architectures can do, and we need to the people around the industry need to rethink on how to approach that limit.
Let's move to your area of expertise, which is cloud computing. Can you share with us the benefits of going into cloud right now? I work with one organization really hesitant going into cloud because of security reasons. First, you can discuss the advantages and how we address the security issue when you go cloud.
My experience in cloud, so it started early 2010s, and further grew my expertise on the cloud, and I work in the payments industry. Then after 5 years in the payment industry, I decided to start Apper. Now we're in the position to help organizations to better understand cloud computing platforms and how it can accelerate their digital innovations and how they operate their businesses. So in essence, cloud computing is a technology that allows you to utilize compute, storage, database, and network resources over the internet. So think of it as if you're coming from let's say a traditional office environment. So you have computers. When your business grows bigger, or the organization grows bigger, they might need to have common resources. They have so they buy servers to host the application, to back up the files of the people, right? So that's practically how things started, and everything is connected by a network which is local to the office environment. Now, coming from that perspective, so think of it now, the network is bigger. So we're not just talking about the physical environment, we talk about the entire internet. So the server that you're using, or your server, a compute server for your storage, or um, other services might be hosted on another country. So essentially, that setup was enabled because of advancements in the network side of things. Because since we have better networks now, better broadband connections, we can now host the servers to companies that have specialized in running computers, running servers at scale. So that allows businesses are enabled now to utilize those economies of scale by just using a fraction of the servers that they need to use. So it's kind of I guess it's a strange setup if you think about it, because okay, previously I have the server on my office, it's
On
physically
premise.
stored there on premise. Now you're going to take it away and put it in somewhere out there,
Yeah.
somewhere up in the clouds. So I guess I get the fear, Yes,
Yeah.
don't even know where the server is exactly. So that scares a lot of people. But let's talk about, I guess, to answer the security, I guess I'll also give this perspective. So if you have, let's say, a physical server, means that you're also responsible for securing it, you know. So there might be people coming in and out of your office. So you just can't have your physical server just running, unsecured, physically, where people can just access the computer or the server, or just they can easily just pull out the power cable, and the server will die. So there's also a challenge. At the same time, making sure it's up to date. It's also it has enough redundancies. So let's say if your office or your organization goes expands, or it expanded, right? You might need to have multiple servers, and managing servers could be costly too. So at the same time, you need to think about power, cooling, security. So not just security on the physical sense, but also on the software side. So all of a sudden, you spend a lot of resources, manpower, budget in maintaining servers, but your core business might not even be technology. You might be into retail. You might be into non-tech business, but all of a sudden you need to provision budget for your IT department, because the maintaining this infrastructure, it takes a lot of effort. So it's now the cloud computing essentially takes out all of those pain points, and enables you to just focus on your business by taking care of the physical security, the network. Okay, and it also results to a shared responsibility in security. So it means that the cloud computing platforms takes care of the physical network, power, all of these things as part of their responsibility, security responsibility. But at the same time, you still have the responsibility to protect your data. So you're given the tools to protect your data. It means that you can access your data anytime. So the cloud computing provider won't be able to access your data, but if you have access, you can do whatever you want with your data. You're given tools to protect it, to make sure the integrity is there, make sure that confidentiality is upheld. But the cloud computing provider will only take care of the physical and non-data related security. So that's how it works. So ultimately, you still have the freedom. So if ever you want to move to the cloud, let's say you feel like, okay, all right, the cloud computing company takes care of the physical network security, but I can take care of my data. All right, that's fine. But you still want to have access, or let's say you still want to have an on-premises backup. You're still feel free to do so.
It's like hybrid. Can you do that? Do you recommend that?
So doing a hybrid architecture is recommended for bigger organizations with more stringent security and compliance requirements. So it's not for everyone. It's not for every company. Because if you're running a small business, it doesn't make any sense. The benefits of cloud outweighs the potential, let's say, issues that you might have on the security side. But of course, if you're an enterprise, you're a big organization, doing hybrid is also provides benefits.
I think the main concern of the owners, especially the family-owned organizations, the big ones, is more of the security than cost. So do you have an idea, like, how will you convince this the owners of these organizations to move to cloud? Because like you mentioned, we will be very dependent on connectivity, and I think the question here is the security on cloud computing matured enough to guarantee that it's non-hackable?
Oh, okay.
Is there such
All
an
right.
offer?
So of course, with this infosec background, definitely there's no 100% secure system. The joke is the only 100% secure system is a machine or system that is not connected to the internet or to
Okay.
any network for that matter.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Okay.
but okay. So I guess I'll put another perspective here. So the Philippines, in a way, we're part of the few countries that don't have what we call a public cloud region. So what does it mean? So it means that there's no public cloud provider that has data centers in the Philippines.
Let's give
I
some
guess that's a
context.
major.
Let's give some context, Diwa. Is Asia, I mean, ASEAN countries, they have most of them? Are we the only ones that does?
Okay. So I'll give you, I guess, the timeline. So, okay, let's talk about Southeast Asia first.
Okay,
Okay,
sige.
Southeast Asia, you have Singapore.
Malaysia, Indonesia.
Singapore was one of the first, actually the first Southeast Asian country that had a public cloud region. So AWS, GCP, Azure. But practically when AWS started, Amazon Web Services started, they chosen Singapore to have a public cloud region. And I guess from 2010 up to now, they have started other regions. So you have a region in Hong Kong, which is more of the east side. GCP, for example, Google Cloud Platform as a region in Taiwan. Alibaba Cloud, even has a public cloud region in Thailand. So AWS is launching the Jakarta region next year, 2021. So if you look at it, so maybe 5-10 years ago, we'd say that, okay, most of even the Southeast Asian countries, you only depend on Singapore, right? But now it's expanding. So I think the fears of using a public cloud platform, especially with the more traditional organizations, will change once a public cloud company establish a region here in the Philippines. What we have currently in the Philippines, in Manila in particular, would be what we call edge locations. Essentially, these are the points of presences or POPs for content delivery networks. So whenever you download, let's say, a file, let's say from or a stream a video, let's say from Netflix, which uses AWS, you're streaming it within the AWS edge locations here in Manila, so it's faster. No? But the compute part will still be in Singapore. Now,
okay,
if a cloud provider establishes a region in Manila, then that becomes a game changer. It means that, I guess it's more of a because on the security side of things, I'm definitely convinced that the security is world class already. I mean,
okay.
even the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States they're using AWS for their systems and platforms. So it means that even the most security conscious organizations are convinced that the cloud computing platforms or providers have good enough security to protect the data of the most confidential organizations. But I guess in the Philippine context, because we don't have a public cloud region, there's still fear because practically the data is outside of the country, and the way to lessen that fear of the data somewhere out there is to bring the cloud region here. Once that's up, then I guess it's going to be a different story.
Are there plans of building one, and do we have a timeline for that? And who's investing? Amazon, Alibaba, or who?
So I can't say. So I know. So it's going to come sooner or later. There are stories that there will be a player who's going to establish a cloud region next year. So I'm very excited for that actually, because it means that let's say for us in Apper, since we're a multi-cloud digital innovation company, let's say we approach an organization or a company, and they feel I guess they're very hesitant to move their systems and data to the cloud. But if you can tell them that, hey, the cloud platform has a region here in Manila, so that changes the psychology. It's more of the perception because it's here already, Diwa.
Yeah. Do you have stats, Diwa, like how many are into cloud already, like Philippine organizations? Or is there a big number of organizations on cloud?
I would say we're still a small market compared to other Southeast Asian countries. So if you think about it, the decision of where the cloud regions are established are also dependent on the potential market. So I guess that's one of the reasons why we didn't get in the public cloud regions, because our market is still small.
Okay. Parang chicken and egg, no?
Chicken and egg, yeah. So because it's a huge undertaking, huge investment from a cloud computing provider perspective. Then it means that, of course, at the end of the day, it's a business. So it means that when they establish, it's not just like one data centers. They need to establish at least 3 data centers to have redundancy. So imagine that, okay, you have a public cloud region, zone A, zone, one in Visayas, one in Mindanao. So you need to, invest on the physical infrastructure, the network infrastructure to connect them. So, and also the manpower to run all of these things. So that's a commitment that need to be provided by the cloud computing provider in order to establish.
When you say low cloud computing penetration, Diwa, does that mean less than 20%, 30%?
Okay. Well, I don't have the exact stats. I can give, I guess, an estimate of how I saw the growth of the organizations adopting the cloud. I would say roughly 30 to 40%, still a huge majority in terms of business sizes. Most of them are still on premises. Most of the companies going to the cloud first approach are usually startups, smaller companies. I do see a change of the trend has changed in the past 5 years, and that's one of the reasons also why I decided to take the leap again from coming from a more corporate environment to starting my own business, because I saw the timing is right this time.
Yeah.
So I see that there are more organizations moving to the cloud. So that's the time also that I realized, okay, maybe it's the time to start again the business.
Yeah, the 70% is your opportunity.
Right, correct.
What service is being utilized? I presume this is more of the SaaS services than PaaS and IaaS.
Okay, yes. So for everyone's understanding, so we categorize cloud computing services into different tiers. So at the lowest level, you have the infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. So we talk about virtual servers, databases, network services. Then you go up the ladder, you go the PaaS, or platform as a service. So things are managed for you, but you just need to upload your application code. And on top of that, you have the SaaS, or software as a service. So if you guys are using Gmail, Microsoft 365, so these what are things that what we call SaaS. There are also specialized services like application services for developers. So if you want to create distributed systems, function as a service. So if you want to deploy your application in a more granular manners, instead of hosting on servers, you just pay the cloud computing provider with the amount of compute time that you use, down to the 100 milliseconds. So those are the main cloud computing category types. So in the country, most organizations definitely use the SaaS services. So the G Suite. They got renamed recently, so it's called Workspaces, Google Workspaces.
Oh, okay.
So because we also use Google Suite, but okay, they call it Google Workspaces. So Gmail, Google Docs, Of course, you also have Microsoft 365, so Word, Excel. No? So those are staples. So a lot of, I guess, the penetration for those services are higher. But okay, let's bring the SaaS services on the side, and we talk about the IaaS and PaaS services. So IaaS and PaaS services. So these are more of the what we call traditional cloud offerings. So most organizations, they look at migrating to the cloud as more of a lift and shift model. So it means that, let's say, if you have 200 physical servers, what's going to happen is you're going to have 200 virtual cloud servers. So that's the lift and shift model. So so that, I mean, that works. But you can still there are still a lot of things that you can benefit from in the cloud. You barely scratch the surface, and so that's how we help our customers, make them understand that to fully utilize the cloud, you also need to think outside of servers. The actually what's happening right now is that now in the 2020s, now that we enter a new decade, I feel like you don't even need to think about servers anymore.
Oh,
No more of the, yeah.
Apper has been in business for how long? 2 years?
So we started the business early last year. Technically February 27, if you base it on our incorporation papers. That's the official start of the business. The beginnings of the company started way before February 2019. And the funny thing, we actually pivoted. No? So the story is, together with my co-founders, we have won this hackathon back in 2018. It's an hackathon organized by the Asian Development Bank and the Asian Institute of Management. So that was around Q4 of 2018. And we were able to get, of course, winning it. You get cash prizes, no? An incubation opportunity at the Dado Banato incubator.
Okay.
So
how many participants?
The very first iteration, there are a lot. It's the hackathon was open for it's like a regional hackathon, and we were very fortunate that we're able to to win it. So we actually joined the digital ID track. So that's the start of it. And so winning it, it's of course very exciting during the time, no? And I feel like because winning the hackathon is, you feel like, all right, okay, this is it. Everything will go as planned. No? and since we're talking about entrepreneurial journeys, that's not the case. No, that's something that you want to happen, but in reality, it's very different. You know? But yeah, we're very fortunate. No, coming from a hackathon, we're able to get incubation opportunities at the Dado Banato incubator, and I feel like that really gave us some sort of structure, some sort of I guess a guide of where to go. No, so.
Was it your idea or a team's idea?
Oh, well, that's so I've been in the industry, IT industry, for almost 15 years. So more or less, I have some ideas of how to solve certain problems, how to solve customer pain points. So essentially, the idea was it's based on my previous experiences. I noticed that, every time you sign up for a digital service, you always need to sign up, no? Fill up a form, no? Send a copy of your ID, and that's very painful. It requires a lot of effort, no? And so I thought, okay, why don't we create a platform to make it easy for people to sign up for services? Yeah, and so it started from there. And that's the time. So that's the time the hackathon came, and okay, I decided, okay, let's put it, let's put this idea to the test, and so eventually we won the hackathon.
Okay, what was this your first entrepreneurship venture? First
Oh,
time to be
okay.
an
It's a good
entrep?
question. I actually, so Jovel, if you remember, we we actually met way back, 2007, 2008, if I recall, a very long time. So I started a business before, and actually I met you through the Business Network International (BNI). So
Mm,
one of my co-members back then was, I think you guys were into a digital business. You
yeah,
guys
yeah.
were pioneers in that regard, because even during the decade of 2000s, you guys were doing pioneering stuff already. Yeah. So that was my first attempt during those times. But I would say that, it's I felt like during that time, I'm looking back though. Looking back, I feel like those are the training wheels, so to speak. So it's like I'm trying to ride a bike, but during that time, it's still on training wheels.
Okay, okay, okay. Apper offers the full spectrum of services since you offer managed services. So you offer IaaS as well?
That's correct. That's correct. So to quickly talk about Apper. So essentially, we have three business pillars. So we have the engage business pillar, which is consulting and implementation services. So let's say if you need help in migrating to the cloud, or you need help in utilizing your data for data analytics or machine learning, we can help you understand and even implement for you. We also have the managed business pillar, which is essentially our managed services. So if your organization, okay, you don't want to think about this cloud stuff, but it's something that you need, right? We can
Yeah.
help you. So we'll be happy to really help you. So as long as we'll make sure that everything is up for you, we'll do the best practices, all the things that we need to do to make sure that your stuff are up and running. We'll do that for you. And lastly would be the coach business pillar. So essentially, it's enablement and coaching.
Usually that's a per organization coaching, right? I mean, maybe the full development team of an organization is the one you train, or is it like a mixed number of students
Mm.
joining in one course? Or
Okay, actually that's quite interesting. So I guess it's kind of connected to. I guess my answer is kind of connected to how we also adjusted with the with the pandemic. Because we started our enablement business by offering cloud computing programs for open to the public. So we
okay,
offered the cloud architecture mentorship program, cloud development mentorship program, and cloud systems operations mentorship program. So we started with that, and essentially it's a 6-session program, and essentially we aim to really enable you and get you certified within 6 weeks. So that's our guarantee for you as an individual. Eventually, that business grew, and we started offering what we call private and curated programs for bigger organizations, so enterprises, bigger orgs that need a more curated approach in enablement. Because I guess one thing that I realized in the cloud computing industry and IT industry as a whole is that the technologies move really fast, but of course, as humans, as people, we also need time to adapt, right? So
yeah.
the people component in the digital transformation endeavor is very important. So that's the reason we offered also private created programs for organizations who demand a more I guess a more personalized approach in enablement.
Are there any plans
So
of like partnering with institutions like universities offering your services? Because I'm sure one of the schools here in the Philippines would like to include your curriculum in their offerings. Any plans of doing so?
right. So we had some discussions with some universities to incorporate cloud computing. So they're still in the I guess in the works. So, but eventually, once everything is ready, we do think it's a critical component, because in order to be competitive in the digital economy, the way you approach innovation should all, I mean, the talent of your organization need to be proportional with how fast you want to move in the digital world. And if you work, let's say, if you hire students or new professionals in the industry coming out of the university, definitely there's a gap. So you need to make sure that you have a strategy to fill up that gap. And on the university level, also there are also partnerships happening even between cloud computing providers, so universities, to start, let's say, putting in cloud computing as part of an elective or even part of their, let's say, networking course. No? So that's what's happening. Uh, but I do think the earlier that you get people to cloud computing and even know how to innovate in the digital space, I think those are critical skills now,
Yeah,
especially
agree.
in this new decade.
Agree. You mentioned about AI, machine learning a while ago. Has these technologies impacted uh, significantly the cloud computing industry? Like I heard that there's competition now between GPUs like Intel, AMD, and Nvidia competing on the best GPUs in the market.
Yes. So machine learning, so AI, artificial intelligence, and what other people consider as a subset. Machine learning essentially is a game changer. So as a consumer, you might notice that the services that you use are becoming more intelligent. So let's say if you're using YouTube, it can create the recommended videos for you in advance based on your past video history. Or let's say even if you're using Gmail, for example, you can see that sometimes it can predict already what you can do, right? You notice that there are a lot of applications that that allow to, let's say, detect the objects in a video, or even detect you automatically. So all of these innovations were essentially started or have prospered because of machine learning. So machine learning, in essence, the end goal of machine learning is to perform a prediction or an inference. So it means that, so if you put it, let's say, in a YouTube context, the machine learning model essentially, that's some sort of code that can predict what videos that most likely you're going to watch based on your past data. And definitely there's a huge impact in so it's like cloud computing and machine learning kind of went hand in hand, because the most advanced organizations were able to utilize machine learning, and the cloud enabled the most organizations, smaller organizations, to leverage the advances in machine learning. So practically now, you can do a lot, even as a startup. So things that are usually reserved only for the Facebooks, for the Googles of the world, they were able to do advancements early on because of the amount of data they have and the amount of compute power they have. Now it's at the hands of startups and almost all organizations. I just want to say something about the pandemic, because as I mentioned a while ago that, okay, we started offering enablement programs, then we ventured into consulting and implementation services, and eventually we also started our managed services offerings. But the journey to our current state is also, of course, it was challenging, uh, and just like any startup business founder, I need to adjust. And I think that's especially true for the entrepreneurs listening to this recording, because I feel like things really changed because of the what happened in the past 8 months, 9 months. The things that we take for granted before are kind of either gone or they have changed already. but also there are new things that have started. So for me, for example, the fact that they're having this recording over Zoom, I think that's one of the results, positive result of the pandemic. So so as business owners, startup founders, entrepreneurs, it's always the ability to adjust. We need to have that ability to adjust and shift, also take new information and adjust to the environment. So that's what we did during this pandemic, and that resulted for us to have a revenue growth even in the pandemic. So the services we offer became more relevant, I guess, because of now, since you can't. So going back to the story of you have on-premises servers, now that there's a pandemic, and if there's a lockdown, how can your people go to the office and manage your stuff, right? So a lot of companies actually were forced to do digital transformation during the pandemic. And in fact, right now we're having a lot of discussions with companies who were forced in a way to do digital transformation and look at cloud as the vehicle towards that transformation endeavor. So if your organization would need help in better understanding the cloud platforms and cloud computing services, how it can integrate with your digital transformation strategy, so we'll be happy to help. So you can visit Apper.ph or send me an email at cloud@apper.ph.
How can we support you moving forward? Like, do we follow you on Instagram, on YouTube? Where are you active?
We have a Facebook page, so Apper.ph in Facebook. So most of our stuff are there. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. So I'm not really into Instagram. I'm very, what do you call this? I guess business, more of a very formal when it comes to business. So my channels are LinkedIn, email, and Facebook. So
I'm curious, Diwa, how's your average day?
So I guess it changed a lot this past since the start of the year. I'm delegating a lot nowadays, so it means that I need to expand my team and really rely with my team members. So also make sure that everything is functioning. We're not into the point that we're well oiled, but we're getting there. So typically we have a daily stand-up with my team. So that's 9 a.m. So that runs around 15 to 30 minutes. So usually most team members need to give a short description of what they're planning to do during the day. If there are blockers, they tell to the team so it can be resolved as fast as possible. Then usually the next few hours are with client meetings or alignment meetings, cadences. Sometimes I need to have cadences with our customers. I feel like the most successful customers that we had are also the customers who are also very particular with regular cadences. So I usually attend those. And usually in the afternoon, I follow up people in our collaboration platform. So we do everything online. We try to minimize meetings. So unless there's really a need, most of the time I don't, outside of the daily stand-up, I don't meet our team members. So everything is through a collaboration platform. So we use Basecamp. And in the evening, so as I guess it's the evening is reserved for my I guess although I'm delegating a lot of things already, it's more of managing. Since we're a startup business, I still need to function as an individual contributor. So my individual contributor task starts in the evening, whether it's creating contracts, small contracts, or reviewing contracts, or let's say replying to customers, or sometimes if there's really a problem that I need to really take care of. If I need to code, I'll code. So I guess that's the reality if you're a business owner, especially if you're still growing, you're still not yet there. You need to do all of these things. So the day is very long, but usually since you're very busy, you don't kind of noticed that. So that's usually the typical day.
Interesting. But on the personal side, do you like, are you an outdoorsy type of person? Do you do meditation?
Okay. So that's a good point, no? I feel like definitely you need to have kasi you need to have you need to have the way to keep it going. I feel like I've been in past situations that either I saw someone say go all out in his or her business, then burn out after a couple of months.
Yeah.
So I also learned how to maintain a certain cadence. So I should take a break, a small short breaks every maybe 30 or 40 minutes.
Okay.
And prior to the pandemic, so I guess I'm more time optimized now because the time saved from traffic can be put into more productive means. But nowadays, because of the pandemic, I leverage a lot of digital technologies to keep fit. So I use VR, virtual reality. So
Okay.
recently bought Facebook Oculus Quest 2. So I usually use that to there's a parang a boxing there. So I can do boxing after if I feel like I need to exercise.
Let's move to the most exciting part of the show. I call this speed rounds. I'll throw some questions and I want a top of mind answer. Don't overthink. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Diwa in one word.
Essence.
Okay. What makes your heart sing?
Success.
Where's your happy place?
At home.
What inspires you to get going?
A family.
What do you think you're doing now if you're not an entrepreneur?
Teacher.
Okay. What's the most searched topic in your browser history?
Probably cloud.
What's the best advice you ever received?
Okay, so I guess the best advice that I got is from the founder of Smart Communications, si Sir Orlando Vea. So when I asked him, that I'm going to start a company, he gave me advice to separate your name from the brand, and that during that time I didn't understand, to be honest.
Really?
I said I don't right. I didn't get it, to be honest, but it resonated to me after
that's very interesting.
after a year. Yeah, that's something that I guess it's counterintuitive, but now that I'm running the business, I understand the reason.
If you had 3 people over for a dinner, who would you love to have there and why?
So my wife, definitely she wants to be there. Also, my mentor, the mentor Bobby, who introduced me to technology, and also want to invite Mr. Vea because kind of he gave me a lot of good insights. Even though we didn't have a direct working relationships, I was able to get a lot of nuggets of wisdom.
Last, you've been very successful and made a great contribution to society. If you were to die tomorrow, you look back and think about your life, what would you have done more of and less of?
So it's more of just doing it and not really think about what's going to happen. So it's in a way I'm practicing that, but sometimes still, it's it's a constant struggle. So I'm getting better at it as I get older, but it's really not thinking about. It's becoming more outcome independent, I would say. So it's really just do it, and if it fails, it fails. But at least you tried it.
Thanks a lot, Diwa. Great to have you here, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you to Jovel and to the entrepreneurs, startup business owners, and also the people who want to start a journey. So good luck. So it's going to be a hard journey. So
Okay.
make sure to really prepare for it. But I'm
Okay.
sure it's going to be rewarding at the end.
Great insights from you, Diwa. Thanks a lot.